What's up, family? It's your boy Omar, and welcome back to the Boys Will Be Boys podcast. As you can see, we have some lovely guests to our left and to my right. She's a guest, really. She's a guest too. So this is awesome. I'm so happy to have our dear friends here with us to join us today. It's really a privilege and an honor. These guys have been such great friends to us. It's only hasn't been what, a year or 2 years.
Like just over a year.
Yeah.
But it feels like
forever.
Yeah.
It feels like such a long time. And
yeah.
So, it's really good to have great friends, and I feel like they have something to share, something they could offer to the conversation that can help boys to mature and to become men. And so, why don't you guys go ahead and just introduce yourselves?
Well, first of all, Omar, Phoebe, thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to be here. Hey, you guys at home can see this, man. This whole set right here is mega, super professional. Like, we walked in here and, we thought it was going to be something simple and very, very dollar store stuff. No disrespect, No, seriously, man, this is serious. This is good. This is very, very professional. So we're honored to be here. We're very, very happy to be here. And thank you for having us once again. We're truly blessed.
So this is Marco.
It's good, man. You gotta get the protocols.
I know.
That's it, man.
No, my name is Nora. I'm Marco's wife.
Yeah.
Say your name, or you're just gonna...
Yes. Oh yeah, brother Marco.
Some call him Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Marco is more like church people, family. Close friends, things like that. But my real name is actually Michelle Mark Antenor.
Oh, actually,
yeah. That's my full name. In school, people call me Michelle. Yeah, Michelle. So some people call me Mark, Marco. Yeah, French.
Right.
I'm from Montreal, by the way. For those who don't know, grew up in Montreal. Originally from Haiti, ça classe toi ma Haitian. Haïti comme là yo, Haïti, nous là on a représenté pour notre accent.
Oh my God.
Too much. Can't be doing too much, right? Yeah. Boys to men. Boys to men. Yeah, you're gonna cut that, right? You're gonna cut this part, right? Okay. Boys will be boys, y'all. Boys will be boys. Y'all already know, man. Boys to men. Oh my gosh. This is good.
So what do you guys do? I know that you guys are involved in your local church, with the youth, and just talk a little bit about that as well. You can kind of expound on what you guys do with the church and with young people and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm actually the youth president at my church. I've been the youth president for about a year now. Wow, I didn't even realize. Yeah, it's been about a year. Been the youth president with a local church. I was also the youth president at my old church in Montreal before moving to Ottawa. So I've been working with the youth a lot. I was also teaching Sunday school as well, doing a lot of that back then. But the youth ministry is really what I do. Through the grace of God. So yeah.
That's good. So it's kind of similar to what this podcast is about, basically, essentially pouring into young guys and helping them to mature in their walk with God and their walk with Christ.
Absolutely.
And obviously practically as well, because we live in a world that requires you to not just be spiritual, but also to be practical, right? So that's really good.
Absolutely.
And same with me. I've kind of always been working with the youth, and after getting married to the lovely Mark, and he became youth president, I kind of helped him with that as well. I've also been helping out with the worship team. I've been doing that for a couple of years as well. So youth ministry and worship is kind of where I am in church. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Awesome. As you can see, some amazing people. And so I'm super excited because, and you want to introduce yourself again, actually, before I go on?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Phoebe. I'm Omar's wife.
I love how we're so simple. I'm Omar's wife. Yeah.
This is my beautiful wife.
There you go.
Beautiful, precious wife. She is the founder of Flavor Fits.
Oh, God.
She's the co-founder of Weekend.
Yes.
She is a proud mother of our baby boy.
Yes.
And she is awesome. The best wife for me.
Thanks.
There you go. Take notes, y'all.
Love it.
That's how you do it.
That's how I introduce you, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't want to introduce herself. Let me do it for her. In this episode, again, we're going to be talking about relationships and marriage. This is definitely one of the topics that I kind of want to touch on within this podcast. The three themes are manhood, number one, marriage and husbandhood, number two, and lastly, fatherhood. And so, Mark and Nora, y'all have been married for coming up on...
Just over a year.
Yeah, just over a year. Okay. Because June was your anniversary.
Yeah, that's
right. So, Phoebe and I have had many conversations about marriage and things that we have been through, what we learned, things like that, of that sort. But just talk to us about your journey. How did you guys meet? And Mark, what was it like for you to kind of approach Nora? And even before you approached her, you saw her. Like, what was that like for you? And then Nora, you can kind of give your experience after as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. As I said earlier, I was born and raised in Montreal, so French is my first language, right? The thing is, I would come to Ottawa every summer, even as a kid, to see my cousin, who was the youth president at the time, so I would always come during summertime. Didn't know how to speak English at all, So my very, very first conversation with her, I was actually 12 years old. And she came to me.
12-year-old spitting game.
Hey, you already know. You already know, man. So ever since I was 12, it was part of my plan. I knew this was gonna happen, right?
Okay.
Hey, show the ring.
No.
There you go.
I can't see. Y'all know
Yeah, but yeah, man, good talk. My very first conversation with her. Like I said, I didn't know how to speak English, right? So I think she came to me, or I went to her and I said hi or something. And then she was like, oh, hi, and then she said, how old are you? And I turned to my cousin, hey, what did she say? And then she told me in French what she said. And I said, 12. That was it. I remember I had to count, okay, in English, 1, 2, 3, after 11, 12. Oh. 12, that was my answer, That was a very, very first conversation, But then after that, I moved to Ottawa, stayed there for 2 years, and by the way, it was a really, really great experience, And literally, I went to an English school, not knowing how to speak English, so I had to learn English the hard way, But yeah, so I always kept in touch with her in the meantime, and even when I moved back to Montreal, I always stayed in touch with her, and then we actually did a camp, in 2017 with my young people from Montreal and her group of youth, right? So we did a camp together, Once again, they didn't know how to speak English at all, So it was a French and English, but it was a great experience, God definitely was there. And then we kept in touch ever since. And next thing you know, I proposed to her, and now we've been married. So
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll give you the man version.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she wanted to.
You did well. You did well. It's basically the gist of the story. Like he was saying, we've known each other for quite some time.
Right.
As he's saying, his cousin lives in Ottawa, still lives in Ottawa, so he would come visit every summer. So even when we were younger, I remember being in children's choir. We used to do that when we were younger, and they would come when they were here in the suburbs. Him and his older brother would come, and a couple of times we had the rehearsals at my parents' house in the basement.
Wow, okay.
So they would come. They didn't know how to sing the songs in English or anything, but they were there. So we've always kind of seen them. And then when we got older, the first real interaction we had, you're right, is when I was talking to his cousin, asked how old he was, and he could barely even try to look me in the eye and
You act shy,
Yeah, he was shy. He could barely even look me in the eye. Couldn't even try. And his cousin's like, respond. You know how to respond. You know what she's saying. He said 12. But then after that, when we would see each other, he would say hi, and the English language was expanding, his vocabulary was expanding, so we were able to say more to each other, which is amazing. And like you said, we kept in contact here and there as friends. Until camp, and during camp, he was actually one of the leaders, as he was saying. He was the youth pastor at the time at his church that he used to go to, and I was helping out with organizing the camp, and I was leading worship with another girl from his church, and we had to formulate the song list. So I was like, okay, we know each other. I'm more comfortable speaking to him than someone else. So we would call each other to figure out okay, this is the song we're singing, and then he'd teach it to me in French and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So we'd go back and forth. And I remember after those conversations, like, oh, wow, like, we've always talked as friends. And I'm like, oh, wow, like, seeing that side of him, that, you know, that leader, that man that was taking initiative, and he's there, like,
Leader.
exactly. Those are qualities that I had not yet seen. So I think that was something that really stood out to me, but didn't really think much of it. I was just like, okay, cool. And it was after the camp, we had a phone call just to talk about how everything went. How did your young people, like, find the camp? Like, were they okay? Or was there, like, the language barrier didn't bother them? So we were talking about all that. And we ended up talking. I even have a screenshot on my phone. We ended up talking till, like, 6 in the morning or something.
Yeah.
Something wild like that. I literally got off the phone and I was, like, in bed. I'm like, what? I was so confused. I screenshotted it and sent it to my sister. And she's like, wait, what? I was like, oh my goodness. But then the next day I was like, oh, like, that was a nice conversation. And it wasn't even like we were talking about each other. We were more talking about camp and like, oh, how'd you find this service? And we're breaking down the word. And, you know, during the worship service, oh, this happened, that happened. I was talking to this young person. And, you know, stuff like that we're talking about. And I felt that we connected at that level. And that was what took us to 6 in the morning. It wasn't like, you know, conversations.
What's your favorite color?
Mine is not. None of that. It was like a real, like, purposeful, like, meaningful conversation.
Right.
And then the next day, I was like, oh, I kind of want to talk to him again, but I didn't want to say it. Of course not. Never.
Why do girls whisper hard to get?
No.
I don't know, man.
Never.
I don't know.
I've never been that person to, like, even if I, like, had this slight, no. You would never know. I would just sit there quietly. Like, you wouldn't know until you came to me. So he texted me the next day and was like, hey, how are you? I'm like, good, how are you? Just playing it cool. And he's like, are you free later on this evening? I kind of want to chat with you again if you're not too busy, because I know we spoke for a long time the day before. I was like, yeah, like, I think I should be free around this time. But I'm like, yeah. So then we just chatted. I think from that day, we talked every single day on the phone.
Yeah.
From that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really, really good. So you said something, Nora, that I want to kind of draw out a little bit and kind of expound on and talk on. So you said that what attracted you to Marco was his leadership abilities and his leadership capacity.
Yeah.
Like, why as a woman would that be attractive to you?
For me personally, I'll speak for myself, if I am speaking to someone, whether or not this is like on a friendship basis or someone I'm looking at as like potential, like we could be together in the future kind of thing, there's certain things that you look for. Obviously, you look for, you know, a man of God, people who you want to have around you, a man of God, loyalty, someone who can carry themselves well, like when they're in public, someone who's a leader. Because especially if you're looking for someone as a spouse, a future spouse, if you are not able to lead in certain aspects that I can see you lead, how are you supposed to lead me in life, right? So that's one quality that I look for. Among others, that's one quality that really, really draws my attention. If I see it in a certain person, I'm like, oh, okay, that's someone I want to have around me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even, like I said, even with friendships, if I see certain qualities in someone, I'll say, oh, okay, I noticed these qualities I never noticed before. This is someone I want to surround myself with because that will help me build these skills for myself as well, right?
That's good.
But especially in a man or future spouse, that's a quality that I find it's very attractive as well. Like you see him, I don't know, Phoebe, you can see your man. There's something about like someone taking that leadership role and you see them, you're like, okay, I can see you being my husband. I can see you being a father of my children. I can see you leading a family. You know what I mean? So
that's good. Yeah. That's good insight. So fellas, if you're listening, leadership, like
leadership.
And I think the leadership when it comes to men, it's so it can be tricky for us sometimes because leadership is really heavy on the responsibility portion, right? Yes. Because you can have a title, like you could have saw Marco in a leadership capacity, but not lead well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so leadership is not just a title. It's not just something you do, but it's something, I feel like leadership is who you are as an individual, as a person, right? Yeah. It just comes out of you.
Yeah.
And I think that as a future spouse, you saw that in him and you're like, wow, like, I see how he could, you said it, I see how he could even lead me and lead our family. And, you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, that's such a good point to take away from, especially for young men, because, you know, man, I remember when I was younger, before marriage, I don't know about you. I don't know about you guys, but like, you always like. It's funny. We were talking about it earlier today, but like, marriage is like a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get into it, it's like a mystery. It's like,
Like,
am I gonna be? Yeah, like, am I gonna be a good husband?
Yeah.
Am I gonna find the right wife? Like, are we gonna get along together?
Yeah.
Are we gonna do good things together?
Yeah.
It's like this. It's just a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a big question mark in your life
Yeah.
that you're hoping to do well in, right? Like everything else in life.
Exactly.
But I think that the leadership capability, leadership quality, I think that's a really, really good point that you drew out. And so, one thing I want to ask Marco, like when you and Nora were talking, was there anything that you tried to portray to her that you were a good candidate to be her husband?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Wow, that's good. That's good.
Because as guys, we always try to flex when we're trying to get
Right.
the girl that we want, right?
Yeah.
We'll drive the big cars, or we'll wear the nice fit,
Yes.
fresh
Yes.
cut,
Most definitely.
cologne,
Absolutely.
watch,
Yeah.
All that.
just to impress her, right?
Yes.
But I feel like when you go to a really substantial level, right, and a
Mhm.
deep level, like what are certain things that, if you can remember it, that you kind of were like, no, like I want Nora to know this about me. Like in your
Right.
courting phase, your dating phase, what were some things that you're like, I want Nora to know this about me so that she knows that I'm a good person or a good
Absolutely.
dude.
Absolutely. No, I understand what you're saying. I wanted her to see that I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian.
Mm.
You know what I mean? To me, being a Christian is a big title enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just the fact that I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I wanted her to see that,
Right.
up front. You know what I mean? I'm a man of God. I serve God. My walk with God is serious.
Right.
You know what I mean? To me, that was important for her to see that. I get asked a lot, what's your definition of a good man? You know what I mean? My definition of a good man is a man who's God-fearing, not lazy, and prioritize his family.
That's good.
You know what I mean? That's my definition of a good man. You know what I mean?
Say that again.
So-
Say that again.
Absolutely.
People in the back. Say
Yes.
it again,
Let me say that again.
Come on, man.
You know what I mean?
That's good stuff.
Let me say that again. My definition of a good man, a God-fearing man who is not lazy and makes his family priority. Let me break that down for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because God-fearing man, we all understand what it means, right?
Yes.
Somebody who serves God, disciplined, and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
And not lazy. The reason why I say not lazy is because it's biblical. God doesn't like lazy.
Right.
But also it's because, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a Haitian church. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Love all my Haitian people. Once again, it's like I say to all you guys. But let me tell you something right now. A lot of men that I grew up with, and that I would look up to, a lot of the leaders, amazing men of God, prayer warriors, amazing preachers, and things like that. But I'll give you an example. If it's time to, I don't know, the church is moving. Okay, so now, all the men at church come. We're gonna move to church. They're out here praying, hands in their pockets. You know what I mean? Just worshiping God. And I'm like, hey guys, let's go, man. We gotta get things going. You know what I mean? And okay. They take one piece, and then they're still, worshiping, praying, and all that. So I'm like, what's going on out here, man? It's time to work. The Bible says it's a time for everything.
Yes,
You know what I mean? A time for this, a time for that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then I would go to their wife sometimes and be like, hey, your husband,
no,
I did. And
out here,
listen,
man.
my father is, and shout out to my dad, my father is a great man. He's a fantastic man, but he's a hard-working guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
When it's time to work,
Get that work in.
Yeah.
get it done. It's time to get it done. You know what I mean? So when I see a man that's not about that, whew, it's hard to be a Christian, in those times. It's really, really hard, Love them, So I would just be like, hey, your husband, good guy, really good guy, but, everybody's sweating except for him, you know what I mean? No disrespect, y'all.
Everyone's
Love
sweating
y'all.
except for that is hilarious.
Love y'all. Love y'all. And they would tell me, at home he's not too, and don't ask him to get uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Don't. He has to be comfortable. You know what I mean? They would tell me these type of things. So I'm like, wow. So to be a God-fearing man, it's not enough.
Right.
It's necessary.
Right.
It should be number one.
Like a
You know what I mean?
foundation.
It should be the foundation,
Right,
my brother.
right.
You know what I mean? It should be the foundation.
Mhm.
But you gotta be hardworking,
Right.
which is something that I wanted her to see as
Right,
well.
right,
You know what I mean? It's part of who I am, a
Yes.
hardworking guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mess around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And why do I add also prioritize your family? It's because people who are in ministry will tell you, family is the first thing that we no longer prioritize.
Right.
Because we're so caught up with ministry, so caught up with work or whatever, and we kind of, put aside our family. You know what I mean? So to go back to the definition, God-fearing man who's not lazy and makes his family a priority. You know what I mean? And these are the things I wanted her to see, that I was a God-fearing man. That I'm a hardworking guy, not lazy at all. You know what I mean? And I'm all about my family. You know what I mean? Like, we go see, my family, my mom and dad and my brother. We
just came back.
Yeah, we just came back from Montreal. A couple of days ago.
Right.
We go see them on a regular basis.
Right.
I talk to my parents on a regular basis. And I wanted her to see that. You know what I mean? Because the way I treat them will be how I treat her and our future kids. You know what I mean? So absolutely. So these are the things I wanted her to see. You know what I mean? So to me, that was really important, because going to church with her, you know what I mean? I knew her family as well. I know her father, her mom, her brother and sister, and I knew that about them. They were very family oriented. You know what I mean? So I wanted her to see that as well in me. That was really important.
So you said something too, is that you saw her family, which kind of helped you to identify someone that you also want as a partner.
Absolutely.
Because if you know you're a family oriented person, you're going to see someone who her family is also family oriented.
Yes.
So you're like, wow, okay, that's a good fit, because if family is important to me, that means family is probably also going to be important to her as well.
Exactly.
That's really good.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
You got to look at the family you're going into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, some people say that, you don't marry her. You marry her family, her culture, and all that. You know what I mean? So that's something that I looked at. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I see her sister, her brother, her parents as well. Will I fit in that family? You know what I mean? Is it going to be a natural thing, you know what I mean, for me to be a part of all this, you know what I mean? So to me, that was important as well, you know what I mean, her family. I'm not saying that, how do you guys call it, Cinderella?
Cinderella.
Cendrillon. See, you know the story, right? She comes from a crazy, crappy family, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Yes, but she's a diamond.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of girls like that. There's a lot of women not there like that, So I'm not saying that it's important that the family, is good. If you meet the girl but her family is a no-no, then you should stay away. You stay away from the girl. That's a sign. It's not always the case.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of Cinderella out there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah. But for me personally, that was important. You know. So yeah, most definitely, man.
Man, that's really good, because I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to marriage, it's like, because it's such a mystery and you don't know what to expect, you don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
Like, you actually don't know what to look for. Like, because I can relate with that as well. Like, when Phoebe and I we went to church together, and that's how we met. And definitely I was able to see her family. I was able to see how her whole family interacts and stuff like that. I interacted with her family. I involved myself with their family, and so I was over to the house eating some jollof rice.
Yeah.
Shout out to the good stuff. Good stuff. Asian food's still the best, but
We're still working.
No, but it's a must, right? And as a young man, like, it's so important to know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And a young woman too, like, you have to know what you're looking for.
Right.
And it's not to say that you should have a list, because I know you have a funny story about your list. Right? You shouldn't have like a 20 item list. You know what I mean? Like, be realistic. You're not going to get Prince Charming or, the perfect Cinderella, as you say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There'll always be some flaw, something that's
absolutely
off. But at the end of the day, you got to know yourself and know where your partner will fit in who you are and who you're trying to become.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And if I can add something
Go
to
ahead.
that, it brings me to something people would ask us a lot, hey, you guys have been married for a year, how is it? A lot of people say, your first year is the honeymoon or the worst one.
Right.
You know what I mean? For us, and I don't know if it's the same for her, it has been the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And still is, and people ask me, oh, how come? I thought it would be, the toughest. And I say to people this very, very simple. We like simplicity, right?
Yes, yes.
If you have a hard time adapting, then it's going to be hard for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to be open-minded. You know what I mean? Because, for example, I grew up every Saturday we clean up. You know what I mean? If she grew up that it's not on Saturday, it's Friday, then what? I'm going to start an argument with her or something like that. No.
Yeah.
Now we're building a family.
Right.
So let's come together and work with, trying to find something that works for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to be open-minded. You know what I mean? I know some people who, no, I did it like this for 20 years, so she needs to follow me. You know what I mean? Her way is wrong and my way is wrong and things like that. And then arguments, because you have to adapt to the other person.
Right.
You know what I mean? She comes from, the same foundation, yes, but her lifestyle was maybe a little different. Like I said, you know what I mean? She's used to cleaning up on Fridays.
Right.
And I'm used to doing it on Saturday.
Right.
So now, we're going to start an argument over this? No, man, come on. Especially, man. We don't like headaches. Guys, come on. You know, listening. We don't like headaches. We don't like arguments. We don't like things like that.
Yeah.
Okay? So fine. You want to do it on Friday? Let's do it on Friday. You know what I mean?
Right.
And vice versa. You know what I mean? So your first year of marriage is going to be complicated if you have a hard time adapting, if you're not open-minded. But if you are, you're easygoing and things like that, then okay, it will be a honeymoon phase, And because I moved from Montreal to Ottawa, Montreal, I had to, throughout my high school, you in Ottawa, you guys have up until grade 12, you know what I mean? But in Montreal, we call it secondary 1, secondaire 1, until secondaire 5, which is grade 7 to grade 11. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So 5 years of high school, I did 4 different schools.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yes, so 3 of them in French, in English, you know what I mean? So I had to adapt my whole life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So marrying her, I had to do some adaptation, so did she.
Right.
But by the end of the day, I think that's why, we have been in this honeymoon phase, because I was open-minded, she was open-minded, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we had our honeymoon phase doesn't mean perfect, right? It doesn't mean perfect, it doesn't mean no arguments or things like that, It means that, okay, you know what I mean? We're getting married, we're building this new thing together.
Yeah.
So you're coming with whatever packages you have, I'm coming with my packages.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to build it into something good, you know what I mean? And let's listen to one another,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? As much as possible, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the things, you know what I mean, that's been our success, you know what I mean? Because, we're still rookies, you know what I mean? We're not coming as experts and things like that. People,
Hey, in sports, there's still Rookie of the Year award.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Hey, it's all good. Man.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
But because, people be like, okay, you guys have been married for 2 years, us a year and a bit, so what advice are you guys going to be giving, But listen, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to get married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there, okay, you guys did it recently. Talk to us.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about our journey.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, no, it needs to be said,
Yes.
from us, from you guys. So it's great that we have this type of conversation, for the people listening out there, So
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's good,
Wow.
man. Marco, preacher.
Yo,
Oh, man. Hey.
Preacher,
Really
preacher.
good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to say one thing, because as you were talking, it reminded me of our conversation last week, the podcast. And we were talking about some of the things that we've learned in our first 2 years of marriage. And flexibility also came up. So
Yes.
flexibility, adaptability, it's the same thing, And I think we were also saying that how our first 2 years were still in the honeymoon phase. And I think we were trying to figure out why. We couldn't actually put a reason or a definition as to why we were still in our honeymoon phase. But listening to you, Marco, I think that's it. We were just so flexible with each other,
That's
able to adapt,
Yeah.
And I think, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, but I think for young men and young women, before you get married, the important thing is to work on yourself, right?
That's big. Yeah.
Work on yourself. That's actually
Wow.
something that I made sure I worked on when I was single, And for those people that know me personally, I actually took pride in being single. I was happy to be single.
Good. Good stuff.
I was happy.
Yes.
Of course, I dated people here and there, but I wasn't thirsty for relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
When I was in a relationship, okay, cool. But when I was out, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm on my own. I can focus on myself. I can pursue goals that I had.
Mhm.
But the most important thing, the bottom line thing to me was to focus on myself.
Yeah.
Work on my character,
Mhm.
right? Work on how to tolerate others, how to cooperate with others. Those essential things that help a relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I worked on, so that when it was time for me to meet Omar and to actually get into a relationship and eventually get married, it was easy.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not. I still have a lot of things to work on, but I feel like the basics I took care of. So
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to just anything in life. right?
Right.
And it's one thing that I told Phoebe, I think it was before we got married, I was kind of like marriage is just another part of life.
It is.
As much as it's a mystery, it's an unknown, and you kind of put it on this pedestal, right? Especially in like Black culture.
Yeah.
You know, you're from Ghana, you're from Haiti, Jamaica, Ghana. But I feel like in all of our cultures, marriage is like this, it's an achievement, which it is. Like it low-key kind of is an achievement.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's glorified to an extent where you're kind of scared of it. And it's like, you know, it's like a huge thing where sometimes even men are scared to get married because it's like a huge commitment, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's like anything else in life. You have to commit yourself to anything you're doing in life, whether it's marriage, whether it's your education, whether it's a job, whether it's a business, whether it's a podcast, whether it's, you know, anything you do, having a good relationship with your family, with your friends, literally anything and everything you do in your life will require some form of commitment, one level of commitment. And so I think that the fact that we are scared, and I'm speaking more to the men because, you know, we tend to be the ones that shy away from marriage and commitment, right?
Yeah.
But if you can commit yourself to a business, why can't you commit yourself to a woman? You know, the same qualities you need to develop in committing yourself to a friendship, committing yourself to family relationships, committing yourself to achieving other things, achieving your goals. Like you have to become a certain individual to be able to commit yourself to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. Like this is the same thing for marriage. Marriage is something where it's just a stage in life. It's an awesome stage, it's a good stage, but it's another stage.
Right.
And I remember before we got married, I kind of dumbed it down in that way with Phoebe because it felt as if there's always that pressure. People are talking to you, they're telling you in your ear, oh, are you sure you're ready? Oh, can you cook yet? Oh, can you do this? Do you make enough money? Do you have this? Do you have that?
Yeah. It's real.
You know, and it's like,
real.
why?
Yeah.
You know, as you would say, Adeng.
Yeah, Adeng.
Like, Adeng, why? You know, like, it's not necessary. That stuff you can learn once you get married. Like, it's just like, it's as if you're saying, you know, I can't go to school because I haven't learned how to cook. Or I can't move away for school because I don't know how to cook for myself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
When I left for school, when I came here to Ottawa, I didn't know how to cook nothing. I know how to cook mac and cheese and breakfast, like eggs and stuff. But as I was here, I learned. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny too? Like, here's like a personal testimony. I remember I lived in my mother's house before I got married, and my mom cooked for me. Got a mom, like she's always cooking, you know. And I was teased, I was ridiculed. Oh, you can't cook yet. You have to cook. You know, like, oh, you have to get married and cook for your husband. And it's like, I heard them. It's important to serve your husband. And based on like whatever capacity you want to put that to. But like, the thing is, I just didn't feel the need to learn how to cook. I was busy with my own life doing other things. But once I got married, I was like, okay, I need to learn how to cook. So what do? Watch YouTube videos. There's Pinterest. There's Instagram. There's TikTok. And I learned. And I'm a very decent, I'm not amazing, but I'm a very...
She good, y'all.
I'm a very decent...
She is. I had some of her she's doing. She's really good.
I'm a very decent cook, you know? And it's so funny because when people were like getting at me like, oh, Phoebe, you can't cook, something inside me told me it's okay. Don't listen to them. You know yourself. You know that when something needs to get done, you will get it done. You'll find any means to get it done. And that's what I did. So I just want to encourage anyone out there, like, don't feel like you have to get it like all together. You actually don't have to have it together. You know? Like, it's just like Omar said, another stage of life.
That's it.
That's it. And I think this leads me to a question that just popped in my head where it's like, how did you guys... Okay, so first off, what expectations did you have for marriage yourself? You know, based on things you've watched on TV or conversations you had with friends. So what expectations have you built of marriage in yourself? And how did you handle those expectations for yourself and also other people's expectations that they were trying to like throw on you? Like, how did you guys kind of handle that and talk through that?
Funny, because as Marco was talking about what you had asked him earlier, what is it that you wanted Nora to see, like as you guys were talking daily, what is it that you wanted her to see in you? And I was actually thinking, and this question actually kind of ties in with it a bit, my expectation was that, and it could be a bit unrealistic, or it is unrealistic, but I was expecting to be with someone that was like my dad. Like that point blank period. Someone like my dad, hardworking. And I do see a lot of qualities. And it's funny because a lot of times they say, women end up marrying people, or women end up marrying men who like either resemble their fathers or are like their fathers, same characteristics, stuff like that. And I really saw those things. So as he was saying, like, oh yeah, I really wanted her to see that I was a man of God, number one. I'm a hard worker, and that I prioritize my family. Those are all things that I would see in my dad. So as I was praying for, a future husband, those are the things that I was like, these are non-negotiables. These are the things that I've seen my whole life. So these are things that I want. If it's not in you, then you must not be the one, because this is what I'm praying for, So those are my expectations, and I made that clear from the beginning. Lazy men, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that should be a high standard for everyone.
Yeah.
Lazy men, absolutely not. Because if you're thinking about it, you're gonna have to carry the baby later on. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to do some of the housework if the man is not able to do some of those things, like the cooking and the cleaning. Thankfully, he's able to do those things, so we're able to share those tasks. But we're still working on the cooking.
You understand?
Really
You understand?
spectacular. But if you have to do all these things and also have to do the housework, mow the lawn, do this, do that, you know what I mean? So seeing all those things and seeing my dad, really providing and taking care of us, I was spoiled. Now that I'm older, I can actually look back and say I was actually spoiled. My parents did everything for me, from elementary or like preschool to university, and even after that, like my dad said, "Oh, you need this," always going around. So that was my expectations: is that if you're gonna marry me and take me out of my father's home, then the expectation is that you're gonna pick up like where you left off, right? So those are my expectations, and at times I didn't want to put pressure and say, "Well, my dad does this for me," so you don't want to say those things, but naturally, I just saw that in him, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a beautiful thing, It's exactly what I was saying before. These are the things that I pray for. These are my non-negotiables. I'm interested to hear your list though, because I hear that a lot in women. They have a long list of qualities. I want a man. They have to be 6'5". I didn't care about height. I didn't really care so much about.
Oh, you didn't have that list.
I didn't really have that list. My main priority is that my husband is a man of God. He's loyal. He is kind, respectful, loves me, our future family, and is a hard worker. That's what I wanted. I don't care. I mean, height and stuff like that. Oh my God, we can play around with those.
He's kind of tall though.
But he's tall,
you were like 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah,
6'3", right?
But I didn't care about that. I didn't care about that stuff at all. I ended up marrying a man who was tall, dark, and handsome. But I think those things weren't at the top. Those things were at the top of my list, if even on my list at all.
Right.
So those are expectations I had for my future husband. In terms of expectations that other people put on me, kind of the same thing, Phoebe, that you were saying. Learn how to cook, and I would cook from time to time in my house, but it wasn't anything intense. Because, like you were saying, we had moms who would be cooking all the time, storing it down. So I'm like, okay, so I'll partake, I guess. I'm still a child in the home. I'm not in charge of my own house yet, so I'll enjoy this for a little longer. But from time to time, I'd help her out, my sister and I. But I kind of heard the same things that you were hearing too. You need to learn how to cook well, clean well, this, that. Sometimes I tell you, if God forbid someone catches you in PJs, baggy PJs, you need to make sure, even at home, you know those ones? You know where I'm going with this. Even at home, you need to make sure, all those, I'm just chilling in my home,
Oh my goodness, you got that too,
I got that too. Oh. My sister and I both got it. All of that, those are the expectations. You need to look good, you need to be able to cook, clean, and be the spiritual anchor in your household as well. You need to pray for your husband. No one else can pray for your husband like you can. And I said, okay, I will.
And it's true though.
It's true. But those are things that were really, really, pushed that I heard.
Yeah.
Did you find that there was anything that you guys had maybe expectations on that you both agreed that let's throw that away? Or there are certain expectations that okay, I think we can actually build on this. Were there certain things that even maybe not yet, I don't know, it's been a year and a half or a year and a bit, but have there been expectations where you had to address it with one another, where it's I don't think this is something that we should continue, or has there been anything like that for you guys as yet?
Very similar to you guys. I grew up with both my parents. My mom was doing the cooking My dad was helping around cleaning and doing all that stuff, like the heavy stuff, behind the fridge, behind the stove, you know what I mean, under the couch, with vacuuming, things like that. But my mom was doing the cooking, you know what I mean? I come back from school, there's food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From work, there's food all the time,
Right.
you know what I mean? So coming into marriage, in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm going to come home and there's going to be food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sir.
On time, right?
All right.
Sir, right there. I have to go and come and sit at the table.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm ready now.
you know what I mean? Hey, that's how I grew up. You know what I mean? That's how I grew up. But it goes back to what I was saying. I mean, you have to learn how to do that. You know what I mean? She worked like I work. You know what I mean? She's tired like I'm tired. You know what I mean? Sometimes, she works even more. She's a nurse. You know what I mean? She's out here doing doubles and things like that. You know what I mean? So, come on. In my right mind to be like, okay, what's the food? You know what I mean? No. You know what I mean? So, these are the expectations. I feel like a lot of our parents, tell us, maybe your wife needs to cook, she needs to clean.
I guess because of like culture and it's just a different time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing, and anyways, I could go on forever, for a long time, but, I don't know about, if you've been Jamaican.
Honestly, same story as you, bro.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for me moving up to Ottawa first and having to live on my own for what was it, like 5 years before we got married, I would be in the same situation. Because same thing for me. I'd come home from school, hot meal every single day.
Every single day.
Like even me coming to Ottawa and living on my own, I didn't cook every day. I would cook one meal on like Sundays and like let it stretch for like 2-3 days, and then I'll cook again. My mom made sure there was hot food every single day, and that's what my dad enjoyed, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of it.
Sorry, kudos to your mom. That's amazing.
Honestly,
every time we go back to his mom's place, like she will cook every single day, and I just admire her for that.
Yeah.
But I can't do that.
I can't even begin to think of like where I would fit it if I was like at home. Yeah, I mean, even that, when you're at home, you're doing other things. Let me organize this. Let me do this. Let me do that. There's always so many things to do.
There's a lot.
I don't know. I just kudos. So honestly, kudos to our moms. Maybe we'll get there eventually. Maybe
that's the thing.
Because my mom, I remember having conversations with her, and she'd always say like, "Oh, when I was younger, I never thought I'd be like a mother of a household, cooking, cleaning, taking care of my kids, doing this, doing that." But it just like came in to me, and I just kind of had to walk in that role, and this is how I am now. So you guys will get it from me. And I do see little bits and pieces every single day, because if you're raised in that, eventually I feel like certain aspects you'll start to see.
Right.
I was just about to. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to add one thing. You see, I think our parents need to understand that, like Omar is saying, marriage is just another stage of life, and you ease into it and you grow in marriage, right? So we're not knocking what our parents are telling us, but we're just asking our parents to give us grace and allow us to grow into what they want us to be, or how they feel a wife or husband should be in a marriage, right? So like you said, like maybe we don't cook every day, but we'll get to a point where we may have to cook every day, and it'll just come naturally for us because we're growing into it.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I feel also because a lot of our parents are immigrants. They came from the countries. They had no time to grow into the role. They came and it's like, okay, let's go. Cook, clean, one baby, two babies, and then they had to try to manage and go to work at the same time and do this. So when we come up with excuses, what they think are excuses, we're like, oh no, but like we're actually busy. Like we, for example, in Ghana, Jamaica, Haiti, I don't think that there are people who are going to school like full-time and then working part-time. Right. But here, a lot of the people who are in school also have a part-time job. You come home, do your homework, do your essays and everything. And we were doing that at the age that they probably came here and started having children.
Yeah, that's true.
So we, like, they're looking at us like, lazy. You know what I mean? They're probably looking at us like, these kids have no idea. Like, you guys were born here, raised here, we do everything for you guys. All we're asking is that you do a little bit more. But yeah, we're not used to it. They had to step into their roles way quicker than we would ever have to, I feel. And so God bless them for everything that they've done. But like you were saying, like we just need a little bit more time and grace, to do these things. So
and also they feel like their story will be your story. You know what I mean? Because I know a lot of women who, and I find it really unfortunate, but long story short, there was this woman who was complaining about her husband not helping around, like cleaning and just with the house, right? So she was complaining about that, right? So she went to an older lady, who was, I guess, her, like, she saw her as a mother, somebody that she trusts, and she explained the situation to her. And you know what the lady said to her? She said, so you're complaining about your husband not helping you around the house. Okay. Is he working? Yes, he is. Is he cheating on you? No, he's not. Is he making fun of you in public and humiliating you? No, he's not. So what are you complaining about? You know what I mean? What are you complaining about? You have a husband who's doing all these things. Who cares if he's not helping you around the house? You know what I mean? This is a good man. You know what I mean? You need to quit complaining and take care of the house. That's your role anyways as a mother, as a wife, as a mother. So keep at it and thank God for your husband. You know what I mean? Literally. But that's because, I don't know, their past relationship or what they've been through or stories that they've heard. And now their standards so low. You know what I mean? As long as you have a man that's not cheating on you, that's not, humiliating you, and he goes to work every day, the rest you can handle. But no, I don't believe in that, my ladies. For you guys listening out there, come on, man. Put the standard on higher than that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's you. You know what I mean? That's your story. That's you. That's where you're coming from.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. It's too bad you have to come from this, but they think like, well, for you, you're my daughter, and make sure you have a man that doesn't cheat on you, and that doesn't make you humiliate you, and is hardworking. That's all you need. You know what I mean? I disagree with that absolutely.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's a black people thing or if it's or if it's a everybody thing. Because I don't know if it was Chris Rock, but he was talking about how black people are just like the basic things. For us, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so useful. Oh, I never been to jail. What do you mean? Yeah, okay, I never been to jail. You know what I mean? Oh, I never got shot. Okay, well, thank God I never got shot. That's for us. It's like, oh man, wow. You know what I mean? But it's just basic stuff, things. You know what I mean? A man that's helping around the house is basic. Right. You know what I mean? A man that's not cheating on you, please. You know what I mean? Like that's basic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And a man that's cooking, that's basic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So come on, ladies. Come on.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the strength of a community, right?
Yes.
Like when the standards when the standards are being passed down are so low, how can we expect the community to be strengthened, right? And I always believe that marriage is the cornerstone of every community, because marriages give birth to children. Yes. Children grow up, and they become the community even more, and it just grows and grows and grows over time.
Yeah.
And so I think that as parents, it's so important that like we pour into children good standards, even things that we wrestled with and have come to know that, hey, like this is something I went through and I don't want my child to go through this. Right? Instead of like the example you just gave, like it would have been better for that older lady to have said, well, okay, I can see what you're saying, and maybe work through her to lift her standard and uphold that standard.
Yes.
But instead, she's encouraging her to lower her standard, right? And so I think it's so important that as a generation, we look at the next generation and even help them to raise the bar higher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you think about it, right? Like, and Phoebe and I talk about this sometimes. Like, why is it that some people get ahead so much and so far, and others are suffering? Like, what's the difference? Yeah. Because we're all human. Yeah. Right. We're born the same, we bleed the same blood, we breathe the same air, we're given the same amount of hours in a day, we eat the same food. There's nothing special about billionaires or millionaires or people that are, have good families and a good lineage. There's like, what's the difference? Right? And I think the difference, like you said, is the standards. Yeah. Right? The standard of working hard, the standard of having good principles, having good morals. Yes. Being God-fearing, right? Instilling the word of God in children, right? I think it's so important for us, and like you said, let's talk about it, the black community. It's so important for us to lift the standard.
Yes, please.
And I think it's really happening with our generation.
Definitely.
I think that we have really, we refuse to settle for less, and sometimes that can be frustrating for our parents. I think we were having a conversation the other day about Gen Zs and how Gen Zs, like, especially in the workforce even, like, they don't take anything. No. So a friend of ours was telling us how a Gen Zer got a job. I guess that's the term, I don't know. A Gen Zer had a job, and the requirement was for them to work 8 hours a day. And they were like, what? 8 hours a day?
You're lucky.
Yeah.
I was like,
Never heard
bruh.
that before.
8 hours.
8 hours a day was a problem. Like, I was like, bruh.
Wow.
I was thinking about those times I used to deliver pizza back in Brampton. I'd be working, 15 hours, 16 hours, sometimes 17-hour shifts.
My goodness.
Yeah.
But
Like-
the thing is though, like we're laughing, right? But you have to understand, maybe you have to ask the question, what is that Gen Zer standard though?
Yeah.
Maybe their standard is, I'm not going to give 8 hours to some man. Rather, I'm going to take that 8 hours for myself and build my own business. Because that's just generation, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right,
This
right.
generation is all about building businesses,
It's
like
true.
just inventing new things.
Yeah.
Like it's a different breed altogether.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm going for with the whole raising the bar and raising the standard. Even in church.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
young people nowadays are not so quick to just say, okay, sir, okay,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
No, you gotta break that down. Like,
Yeah,
you're telling
yeah,
me
yeah.
something, but why is it this way?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thou shalt not steal. Well, why not? Thou shalt not murder. Oh, well, why not? You know,
Yeah.
obviously, those are
We're going to-
kind of extreme example, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, you gotta really break down everything, which I think is a good thing, because not only does it help them understand, it helps us understand. Because I feel like our generation was the one that we're kind of the in-between.
Yeah.
The millennials,
Yes.
we're the in-between
Yes, yes.
generation, right?
A little bit on.
We still got some old school,
Yeah.
but we're trying to fit in with the new school.
Yeah,
Right.
we see them, we're like, okay.
Yeah, trying to fit
Still
in,
trying
right?
to play it safe though. Yeah.
So I feel like, we were the generation that we grew up saying, yes ma'am, yes sir, without really questioning anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But then we kind of grew up to kind of see certain things, and we're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And we started asking certain questions. And we
Yes.
started, maybe even stop believing certain things or stop following certain things. Like, for example, church tradition would say, you can't wear jewelry. Women can't wear makeup.
Yeah.
Those types of things, right?
Right.
Where now our generation's kind of like,
Hold up.
but is that biblical?
Yeah.
And like even certain things in Bible, like a lot of people say that there shouldn't be women pastors or women preachers or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, is that what Paul really meant? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's important that we pass that inquisitive mindset to the next generation so they can continue to carry it. Because if you're inquisitive, it brings understanding.
Yes.
When you have understanding, you have knowledge. When you
Yeah.
have
There you
knowledge, you don't perish.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
the Bible says,
Yeah.
my people perish for lack
Lack
of
of
knowledge.
knowledge. Yeah.
But when you gain understanding, right? When you gain knowledge, like that's how you can move forward. And I think if we can come together as a community to move forward with that same mindset, to always be inquisitive, seek knowledge. Don't just take yes or no for an answer. Like, why? Why is it this way? I think we can really, really make some strides to move ahead.
Absolutely.
Yes. And just to go back and touch on what you were saying before, you were saying marriage is a very powerful institution because
Yes.
from marriage comes children.
Yes.
And then those children will grow up in society.
Yes.
They'll be the next, whoever in like the workforce and whatnot.
Right.
But that's something that I've noticed, and I think I've had conversations with Phoebe and Anna about this many times, but even in my workplace or like as my husband said, I'm a registered nurse and I work in mental health, and I've been working in mental health for 4 years. I work primarily with youth. I've worked with adults, but now I'm working primarily with youth. Most of the families you see of the youth that are coming in to for an inpatient admission, broken families.
Wow.
Marriages, you see a lot of them, parents divorced, or my mom cheated on my dad, or my dad cheated on my mom, but they don't know that I know, but I knew because these little kids always picking up their parents' phones, or they're so sneaky, so they're figuring these things out, and so they're trying to look good in front of their kids, but they know. So you're living a lie, and your kid is experiencing this.
Wow.
Your kid is experiencing all these problems. Why?
Wow.
And they're wondering, we do everything. We put them in ballet, we put them in this, we put them in that. They don't care about any of that. They're looking at their mother and father, the two people who brought them into this world, and they're seeing brokenness. So seeing that, it literally just, that's what they feel. It feeds right into them. That's what they feel.
Absolutely.
Like, you guys are broken, so if you guys are broken, how about me? Then they come, and then you start to see all these issues. Now, the kid who was, doing well and was a straight A student, was, like leader of the soccer team, all these things, now marks declining, doesn't want to be in sports. Now they're starting to question everything. If my parents who were supposed to be like Mr. and Mrs. Right. You see them like they're supposed to be my superheroes, you know? If they couldn't get it right, how the heck am I supposed to survive in this world? So then they start to just question everything. Everything in life for them, it just becomes a question mark. And then they start to get really depressed, and then they start to do a lot of deep reflection, you know, then it takes their mind. That's when the devil takes over, right? So it's interesting that you said that. It's very true. Family is very important. Marriage is very important. That's something that we discuss a lot. And we always say, like, certain times, you know, we'll do something like, oh no, we should do that. Like if we have kids and they're watching us, like we wouldn't want to do, let's develop these habits now. So that like when we have like a daughter or a son and they're watching, they'll be like, they won't like mimic that behavior, right? So I'm like, let's train ourselves to do these things now so we're not like doing it in front of our kids. You know? And sometimes we're just goofing off like, no, don't do that. You know? We laugh about it, but it's so true because sometimes people don't realize it, but the habits you have now, you can just continue, and then, you know, you start to have a family and you continue that habit, your kids are watching you, and then they start to develop habits and you're trying to correct it, don't do that. But if you start to reflect, you also have that habit as well, right? So it's very important. I think it's something that and even older siblings as well. Older siblings, that's another thing that I've noticed when I'm looking at these families, like broken marriages and stuff, but they also don't have close relationships with their siblings. It's like every man for themselves. One thing in my home, as we were talking about, is that our family, we're very close family. My dad was like, your sister's your best friend, your brother's your best friend. Growing up, you don't have any other best friends. Like, I remember I wrote in elementary school, it must have been like grade 5, and we're given these words to write sentences with every single week. And one of them was like best friend or friend. And so I wrote my best friend is, and I wrote the name of like my good friend at the time. And my dad came from work, he saw it, he erased it. He said, no, your best friend is your sister. I remember I was like, wait, what? Like, I was so confused. He's like, your best friend is your sister. No, she's your friend, but your best friend will always be your sister. Never forget that. And I remember like being younger, you're just like, oh my gosh, like why we, like, yeah, of course we're friends, but we have other friends too. Like, she's a year older than me. She has her friends in her grade. I have my friends in my grade. But I'm so happy that my parents really instilled that in us while we were young, because as we got older, like everyone would be like, oh, Nora, Nadia. And now you can't, it's kind of like NFP. No one can say one without the other. So it's like, oh, Nora, Nadia. Nadia, Nora. Oh, Phoebe and Anna, and Phoebe. Like, we're just
and shout out to Nadia, shout out to Anna.
Shout out to the sisters. Yeah, it was always like that. But I always think my sister had my back, and she was me that I had her back. But sometimes you see these kids, they have older siblings, and it's either two siblings gang up on the younger one, or they just don't talk. Like, oh, you have siblings? Like, I'm always interested to find out, like, who they chat with at home. Like, yeah, I have, like, 2 sisters, and they're all close in age. Oh, you guys talk? No, we're not close. She's like, this is my best friend. And they have, like, another random person who's their best friend, and then they get into arguments with them, then they're no longer their best friend, then they're alone, but they can't talk to their siblings or even their parents about it, you know? It's quite sad, honestly, and so it's really important as family. It's so important to stick together and just know that there's always someone watching. That's something I always tell my husband. Like, even though you think like I'm that person who, when we're in public and like we're talking, wait, like you never know who's like listening, you never know who's watching. It's like no one's watching, nobody's watching.
I'm like that
and
too,
if my
though.
siblings are watching, they always make fun of me. Like they'll be saying something, like my brother, he's always cracking jokes. And when we're in public, I'm always like, my eyes are open because I'm like, this guy, like he's a lot sometimes. So I'm always looking out. Nobody's watching me. Like, stop. Like you're such an over exaggerator. Like you're a drama queen. And lo and behold, it's like one day, like you'll say something and you'll turn around and someone's like watching. You know? And like you never want someone to look at you and you know they hear you say something off just one day, and all of a sudden you meet them in church. Like, oh, you're the person I saw there. You know? Yeah. You just never know. And we always say Ottawa's so small. We always say it's such a small world, even because you know someone I may see may be connected to you, or you know vice versa. So those things are so important. I feel stick to, you know, like going back to what I was saying, family is so important. That should be your core forever and ever. And I strongly believe, like you were saying, that marriage and family is like the most powerful like institution.
100%.
Okay, so Nora was saying how she was very interested in my list, and you're making it seem like my list was very superficial, which it wasn't. Thank you very much.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't superficial. But before I even get to the list, I kind of want to say that, like, and when I say list, I mean, like, when you're single and you're looking for a man to marry, right? You have a list of characteristics or requirements that you have for a husband. And the one thing that I always told myself was that I didn't want to get too superficial, right? Like I didn't want to get into the whole like 6 feet tall, I mean, like I said in the last episode, looks are important, but it's not like the end all be all. Like get someone that is like decent looking or that you're attracted to.
Yeah.
You have to waken up to have this person for the rest of their life.
But I don't think it should be the number one thing. I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, no,
because when you're in a marriage, like looks don't mean anything anymore. Like that's when like you really get into it, you know, like you're doing life together, you're making decisions together, you know, finances, everything, you know, and when you start to add looks in there, it just kind of doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't even make sense.
Like Nora and Marco were talking about leadership, right? Like, can your husband, you know, lead the household and, you know, make very sound financial decisions, right? Or can your husband, you know, discipline your children well and instill good values in your children? You know, there's so many like important characteristics that you have to look for in a husband. Rather than the superficial stuff. So, like Nora, I actually don't remember what my list said, but it was very like, it was solid with just good characteristics I was looking for. And then I had the rest, like, oh, I hope he's handsome, you know, and I hope that, you know, all those other fluffy stuff. So, yeah.
And as a man, we want to feel like we're adding value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good, yeah.
Like, I don't know what your list is, you know what I mean? But as long as I'm adding value, you know what I mean, to your life, you know, spiritually, financially, morally, emotionally, at every level, you know what I mean? We need that as men, you know what I mean? Like, what difference am I making, you know what I mean, ever since we've been married, you know what I mean? You know, every day you wake up, you go to a routine, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta feel like you need me, you know what I mean? As much as I need you, you know what I mean? You need me as well, you know what I mean?
Mutual.
You know, it's a mutual thing, you know what I mean? But for men, definitely it's something like we gotta feel that, hey, I'm here, I'm making a difference, you know what I mean? And you know, she tells me that, or she shows it, you know what I mean? That, hey, I'm making a difference, you know what I mean? And
I think that's such a good point, and it leads me into talking about this. Because, Nora, I had a question for you, because we talked about this in our other episode, and in our previous episode, sorry, and I wanted to ask you the question about submission and what your view of submission is, and how, if you're comfortable, how that looks like in your relationship. But Marco, you touched on it a little bit, where it's like we want to feel like we're needed in the relationship. We don't want to just feel like we are just there. Like we want to feel, like you said, adding value, like we're a valuable member of the family. Like,
absolutely.
As a nurse, you know, on your own, you could probably do quite well on your own for yourself. You know what I mean? And I'm sure, trying to be humble. Hey, listen, like, it is what it is, man. Hey, nurses, you know, do quite well. Like everyone knows, you know, the pay scale for nurses is good. You know, you could probably live on your own, or even if you're living in your parents' house, you could probably have achieved the same things you've achieved alone by yourself, right? So like, how does that in your singleness, like how do you, I guess, surrender that? Because some of the things that a lot of women talk about is that why should I give up my singleness if the man is just gonna kind of be there? Like, if I can do stuff for myself, then what is the purpose of marriage? Like, what's your kind of take on that? What's your view on that? As someone who is successful in what you're doing well for yourself, but at the same time, like you've married someone who's able to complement you and add value to your life. Like, how can you kind of address that?
I think the key for me specifically was switching the my in my head to our. So that was the key for me. It's no longer me, it's no longer mine, it's now ours and what we are looking to build. So I actually listened to it, so I'm kind of cheating a bit. So I heard Phoebe's answer, and I do agree with a lot of things you were saying. And you were saying, because Omar loves you so well, it's so easy to want to do things with him and for him. And that's something that I've noticed with our relationship too. If you have someone who's constantly pouring into you and wanting you to be growing spiritually and like in every single capacity and teaching you every single day, being patient with you, why wouldn't you want to be with that person or follow that person's lead.
Right.
If you have a person who's being nasty to you and talking down to you every single day, then you're like, deuces. All right, then. But yeah, so in the beginning, when I had looked at my life and I said, okay, I'm going to go to nursing school, I'm going to finish, I'm going to do, I had all these plans, set up, this is what I'm going to do, this is how much I'm going to make, and then, you set up a little, and we've had these conversations about careers and stuff, what we want to do, and then now you meet someone, your plans kind of change, so now it's like, okay, this was my vision, but I no longer have a vision on my own. Now it's our vision. Mm-hmm. And one thing that, when we were doing the premarital counseling before we got married, one thing our pastor told us is that have a vision, sit down, have a vision, and try to paint it out. Mm-hmm. And like draw it out on what you want. You may not know all the pieces of the picture or the puzzle, but have some type of goal that you guys can come up with together, because that will be, if all else, in marriage, you'll be going through some stuff. If like arguments come, you'll still have your mind set on that goal, and that, if nothing else, that's what will bring you back together. Because we have that one goal that we have set out for ourselves. That no matter what happens, this is where we want to be, right? So in developing that vision, we now had to put aside like our, ambitions that we have, like selfish ambitions that we've had like for ourselves, and now try to join them together. So that doesn't mean I had to put away my goals and he had to put away his goals and I had to just surrender to everything that he wanted to do. No, he took all of the things that I wanted to do and looked at the things that he wanted to do. A lot of them just aligned by the grace of God, and that's another reason why I think you guys talked about it's so important to like when you are preparing to marry. You don't just look at the exterior. A lot of people marry, or I think you were saying date for looks. Yeah, but you really need to look at the substance of the person. Okay, what has God given them? And that's, again, going back to what you were saying, Phoebe, you were saying you really have to know yourself and work on yourself. Because if you don't know any of those things, how are you supposed to share that and come into agreement and, have that vision if you don't even know where God is taking you in life, or you don't even know what your career life will look like, or what, like you were saying, like not everything will be put together. You may not have every single thing in line or in order, but just having something that you can bring to the table. And again, having your partner have something they can bring into the table. You can put that together and say, you know what, this is the plan that I have for us. And it's not like he doesn't consult with me. This is the plan I have for us. What do you think? Yes. This is what I want to do. We may tweak this here and there. I may have suggestions. I may say, okay, you want to go left. I think in this case we should go right, because I have more strengths when it comes to this specific aspect, right? But we may be dealing with something at a certain point in time that it's more of his strengths, right? So then I lean more on him. So it's not that submission is just, I'm like, whatever you want, whatever you say, we're going your way. No. But also as the head of our family, I do lean on him quite a bit, because he's also someone who I lean on spiritually as well. And I know he's a man who hears from God, and his prayer life is really in order. So, if there's something I'm dealing with or I'm struggling with, I can go to my husband and we can talk about certain things. I know that he'll take it to prayer. Same way I will. But there's something about him that, again, I think it ties into that leadership role kind of thing that we're talking about. Knowing that he's the leader, it's easy for me to come to him with a lot of this. You know what I mean? Easy for me to go to him. And that submission, I felt, for me just came naturally. It was never a thing for me. I know a lot of women, especially in this day and age, they struggle with it so much, and I never understood. Like, I would hear women online or at conferences speak, and they say, you don't need a man, successful woman, you don't need no man kind of thing. Like, people say that, and I'm like, why is that a thing? Why are we being so I find that so toxic.
Can I just say for a second? You see, that stuff really irritates me, because you have women saying that who have been through broken relationships. That's number one. Okay?
Very
and
true.
then you have women saying that who haven't even been in marriages. Right? So when I say relationships, I meant marriages. So it's like, you have all these opinions out here, but what about the opinions from healthy marriages? And that's something that I'm not seeing online. It's so interesting. Like, these healthy marriage people, like, we're not speaking. Like, we're just content in our own way, just living our life.
Let me not talk so we don't get attacked. God forbid someone comments on the video and it's like we're shutting the whole thing down.
But like, I'm so happy Omar is doing this. Let's have more healthy and
Yeah.
happily married people talk because they have something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Like we can actually shut down those negative voices and say, no, marriage is actually great. When it comes to submission, I don't even think about it because it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why even before you get married you should be worried about submitting.
Yeah.
Like, why?
It's like it's something that like, oh, you have to submit to your husband. I've been asked that question though, like, oh, like you're gonna get married. How do you feel about like submitting to your husband now? Like he's the head of the household now. I'm like, what? Like, hey? Like,
because they think like they're gonna turn into dogs. They sit down, jump over there, go over there. It's not like that at all.
Yeah.
No, they have their own definition of
but on the
submission,
other side too, like I've heard some men say like I'm looking for women who will like obey me. I'm like,
that's too bad.
I'm like, we can use we can use different words here, you know? But on that side, so I guess if you're a woman and you're listening to this, you may be like, oh, whoa, is this kind of like what I'm going to be dealing with? But again, I never had that in the back, not even in the back of my mind, never thought about it. It was never like a second thought to me. It was like, okay. And before we got married, actually, we did this like intensive Bible study where it's okay, we're going to like look through the Bible and look to see like all the things that like in the Bible, what does it say about being a wife and a husband and like stuff like that. He's like, let's go. Like people are like, oh yeah, I read this book and I read this book. He's like, yeah, forget all that. We're gonna go straight to the Word of God and what does it say? Yeah. So this intensive, but sometimes I'm like, bruh. I was like, yeah, today I read this. He was so serious about it. But now, like actually being in marriage and like going through life together, I'm like, those things, we lean on those words that we read, the scriptures that we read. It's so powerful. Absolutely. And like a lot of, like we're saying, a lot of people go to these marriage seminars and conferences and this, that, and like all this stuff that, you know, intensive like prayer sessions for like if you want a husband and all. I'm not knocking those things down. All those things can be great. Just use wisdom, obviously, and know what works for you, know what you're called to do, know what you're called to be involved in. But at the same time, God has set out words for us to just read. Simple, open up your Bible, read it, and let that feed your spirit and help you in your relationship. These are words directly from heaven. Like this is from God, who we, you know, love and trust, and we're looking at different people. We're looking for people with the big names and all that stuff to get advice from them. And I think that's why we confuse ourselves so much, because we're hearing from so many different sources, and we start to get confused. And now we're like, oh, something that's just so simple, that's written in plain sight in black and white that we can read. We're getting information from all these different places, and we're getting confused, and we don't know how to feel about certain topics anymore. So, you know, something that could have been so simple for you before, after being fed all this information, now you're confused. Oh, I don't know how I feel about submitting anymore. I don't know if that's the thing for me. Like maybe it works in your relationship, but not my relationship. But if it's biblical, this is what we should be following.
Right.
That's it.
So again, that was amazing that we did that. I do encourage like any couple. Phoebe was also saying like seek advice from people you see have like healthy marriages and you know have been in it for some time, or even like newer couples who you see like you can look up to. And we talked to his cousin multiple times. We talked to our parents multiple times as well. And thank God we had parents to pour into us and really teach us and guide us and like, you know, sit us aside and whatnot. But
no, I agree 100%. I think, you know, and I mentioned this a little bit in the previous episode as well, but I'll just touch on it again and say that marriage is from God.
It is.
Marriage is a godly institution.
Absolutely.
And we have so many people that are, like you said, Phoebe, leading these marriage seminars and all this kind of stuff, and are talking about things that are not biblically sound or biblically based. And so you're literally trying to use an iPhone and charge it with an Android charger. Because you're talking to people that haven't had a healthy marriage. There's a reason why. Right? Not to say that, you know, it always takes two to tango, right? There's two sides to every story. But at the end of the day, if you have a failed marriage or you're struggling in your marriage, like, you shouldn't be offering advice to people who are trying to get married. You know what I mean? Or if you're single and haven't been married yet, not to say that you can't offer advice, because at the end of the day, marriage is between two people. And so if someone is a sound individual and can offer good advice to be a good individual, that can be valuable information for marriage as well.
Right.
But you won't capture the totality of advice that you would need for marriage, right? And I think it's so important that we, like you guys did, like I love that you said that, like you guys before you were married went into scripture, went into a deep study of what does a husband look like according to the Bible.
Yeah.
What does a wife look like according to the Bible, and how can I emulate that with my life in my marriage?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you're going to study that, but then you're also going to come together to talk about it. Okay, how can this look like for us? How would this look like? Yes, this was written probably in like 3,000 years ago, but how would that look like today for us in our marriage, right? And I think that's so powerful because we live in a generation that thinks we know everything.
Yeah.
We can Google everything,
Yeah.
or we can watch a quick YouTube video and figure out our problems.
Exactly.
But like, marriage is one of those things. It is a godly institution, and you need the Word of God. And so, I love that. I really, really love that. That's really good.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Man, there's so much more. There's so much more. I think we're gonna do a part 2 then.
Like, as we're talking, I'm like grasping. There's so many things that are coming, but then I lose it. There's just so many things that.
I mean, if I can add one more thing to all this, I know we talk about the women so much, but man, the Bible is clear. Love your wife like Christ loved the church. You know what I mean? So God literally gave up his life. You know what I mean? For us. You know what I mean? So you got to be willing to do all of that for your wife. You know what I mean? I know we talk about women, you know what I mean? So submit yourself to your husband and this and that, But men, love your wife like you love the church. Any married men listening, love your wife like Christ loved the church. Remember that, you know what I mean? Ask yourself all the time, what would Jesus do? You know what I mean? You're having an argument. I say this to people all the time, you are going to have arguments, you know what I mean? So when it's going to come, how are you going to communicate with your partner? You know what I mean? Because to think that you're not going to have arguments, like heavy ones, I mean, listen, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, man. It's part of the game. But how do you handle it?
That's right.
You know what I mean? How do you handle it? If you choose to be mad for 3 hours when the other partner is willing to just be like, okay, let's get over it. Think about it. It's things like that. You know what I mean?
There's always one.
Yes.
You
know what I mean?
One who's just like,
absolutely. You know what I mean?
Minutes later, what are we watching?
Yes. But think about it. It's true. You choose to be mad for 3 hours. You know what I mean? When the other partner is ready to move on with their life. That 3 hours right there was a waste. You know what I mean? You guys could have spent a good quality time. You know what I mean? Have a pretty great memories or whatever. But no, you decided to be mad for 3 hours. And then 3 hours later, okay, I'm good now.
About time.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, if you think about it, it is a decision that you're making. You know what I mean? When you're like, I'm mad for 3 hours. I'm not going to talk to him or her. You know what I mean? So how do you handle it when you have arguments with your partner? What would Jesus do? Fellas, love your wife like Christ loved the church.
And I just to touch on that, and this is kind of alluding to what I was saying earlier about how advice to individuals can be beneficial to marriage because individuals are what make up a marriage, right?
Yeah.
Love is something we ought to do as believers anyway. So when you come into a marriage relationship, it's like, how do I love? Okay, so marriage is different because obviously a romantic aspect to it. But how do I love my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my cousin, my friend, my colleague, my classmate? Like, how do I love those people, right? And that will determine how you can love your spouse. Because I don't know why, but it's the people that are closest to you that know how to push your buttons the most. Listen, it's just facts. Okay? It's just facts, right? So for example, and I think this is a conversation we had just the other day too, is that growing up in my family, as a believer and maturing in my walk with Christ, it was my family that was my first ministry. From a perspective where it's my own ministry to my family. Because ministry just means serving people. Right? That's the definition of ministry.
That's right.
So how can I serve my family as a son, as a brother? Right? And so now you take that out of the family context. How can I serve my classmates? How can I serve my co-workers? How can I serve the people I go to church with? How can I serve my community members? How can I just change the word serve with love? Because you always serve those you love.
Right.
And so I think it's so important that in our singleness, and you alluded to this earlier, in your singleness, you are sure that you can love people that are even strangers to you because you don't have anything invested with them, so it's easy to love strangers. Right? Where it's easy to kind of brush something off and be like, it's okay. I won't let that get upset because they don't know me anyways, right? If you can choose to love and build your capacity to love in your singleness, and your capacity to serve, and your capacity to look beyond the flaws and still be friends with people who, you know, oh, they did this to me, but I'll still be their friend because I know that at the end of the day, no one's perfect. You know what I mean? If you can have that capability and bring it into your marriage, that will literally give you the ability to love your spouse, right? Love your spouse. And as a man, I feel like it's the thing that challenges us the most, because men are supposed to be hard. We're not supposed to love. We're supposed to be hardcore, hard body. We don't take nothing from no one and this and that, or we're quick to fly off.
Exactly.
You know, we'll fight and this and that. But that's the farthest thing from the identity that God's called us to be.
Very true.
Right? And so, like you just said, as men, we're called to love. As husbands, we're called to love.
Absolutely.
And if we can build that in our singleness, then men, I think we'll be good husbands, because in your efforts to serve and to minister and to love your spouse, love your wife, you'll then learn her love language, and not just love her how you think she wants to be loved or how you think love should look like for your spouse, but you'll learn her love language and love her the way that she receives love. You know, so yeah, no, that's a good point that you brought up. That's really good.
Touching on that as well. I think also it's important to remember everything you do is a result of a choice you made or a choice you're making. So we've had discussions where, like, let's touch back on what you were saying. Like, if you get into an argument with someone or get into an argument with your spouse, and you're choosing to be upset for 3 hours, whereas the other partner decides, like, okay, 5 minutes, I got to cool down, I'm good. I'm just waiting for you to come talk to me, kind of thing. You are making a choice to still be mad, because yes, your emotions are still, you know, very heightened, and, you know, you're feeling very upset, you're feeling very angry. How can they have done this to me? How can they have said this? How can they have done this? You're questioning all these things. Ask them. You can make that choice to ask, why did you say this? Instead of dwelling in that, like, oh, self-pity, and like, oh, they said this. Ask them, why did you say this? Why did you say that? You may need some time to just cool off. I do believe that, like, you need that cooling off period. But ask them, you said this, why did you say that? Oh, I didn't even mean it that way. I actually meant to say this, but it just came out wrong. It's okay, because when you said this, it actually hurt my feelings. Like, I didn't even know that, you know? Talk it out. And that's something that we all hear. I'm sure everyone has heard, like, the key to successful marriage is communication. Everyone says that. Like, anytime you go to traditionals or anything, communicate. You know, that's a huge thing. Everyone will come and talk about communication. But look at how you communicate with each other. When can you communicate with each other? It's all by choice. Am I choosing to be mad and sit here for 3 hours, or am I choosing to just, you know, take some time to cool off and go and really address kind of like, what was this argument about? You may end up talking things out and realize, okay, this was very, very silly. It's all just a misunderstanding. Or you can just hold a grudge, go to bed mad, and then the next day you're like, okay, whatever, like, we'll just drop it, and you move on, thinking that that person has certain thoughts about you, but that wasn't even what the person was really trying to say. Just in the heat of the moment, maybe you're saying certain things, and, you know, certain things come out, and that person just kind of keeps that, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds. And if you're not addressing that, and you're not making that choice to come and talk, or making that choice to, like, okay, let me put aside my emotions right now, let me control my emotions. That's something we've learned, and we teach a lot of the kids that I work with is, yes, anyone can be mad, and anyone can get mad. Someone can say something that can really mess your mind up. Like, you could be having the best day ever, someone says something, ruins your whole day. But you're making that choice to be mad. My dad always used to say this. Like, you know, as a kid, like, someone will say something, but it's like, you're mad. You're mad, you don't want to talk to anyone, you're like teary-eyed and everything. And then my dad's like, okay, like, you were corrected, but you're choosing to be mad because this is like long gone. This is like an hour ago, but you're choosing to still be mad. So my dad would always say, like, you can choose to be happy and play with your siblings, or you can choose to be mad and, like, frown and stuff. And, like, I think about that so much now, and I tell a lot of the kids I work with, yes, you got upset, yes, this person hurt you. Make that choice, you know, to, like, really talk to that person and figure out what happened, learn to forgive. You know, all of these are choices we make. And when we say, oh, I want to make the right choice, this is all part of it. Making the right choice, taking the right steps. And I think if we remember that everything we do is a result of a choice we made or a choice we're making, if we remember that and, you know, take that really into, like, consideration, then I think our actions would change a little bit more. Because it kind of makes you look bad. It's like you're making a choice to be mad. you're being
immature.
immature. You feel immature. It's like, yeah, I am. You know? So if you think about it that way, it's like, okay, yeah, like maybe I should make that choice to like, you know, this is my spouse. Let me speak to them. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's communicate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really good. That's really, really good. All right, I think we'll end it here.
Yeah.
But this was such a good talk. Such a good
Fun.
talk.
I enjoyed
I think it was really, really,
nice.
really substantive and really, really packed with quality stuff. All right, everyone, thank you so much. That was such an amazing episode. Thank you so much to Marco and Nora. That was such an amazing episode. You guys offered such good quality information. And I think that a lot of people that are either single looking to be married or that are already married, you know, hey, you could be married for 10, 20 years and might not have experienced this stuff. So, you know, this is really, really good. And really appreciate you guys and having you on this episode.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. And thank you to my lovely co-host.
Yeah.
So is this going to be a regular thing? Like, talk
I
to
think
the
it
people.
should be.
It should be. I think people want that.
Yeah.
I really think so.
Honestly, I don't mind being a co-host.
Okay.
Co-host. But to have, like Nora was saying earlier, that I should have my own thing. Like, nah. I don't want to have responsibility.
Maybe you should say that in the comments too. I'll do a poll on my own. Don't worry. I'll do a
See what
poll
people say.
on my own side. It's so good.
Don't worry, I'll tag
Wait
the
for it.
pages, I'll tag Nora, I'll tag Marco, and if Nora does the poll, then you guys go and vote on her page.
Please
Okay?
do.
If you want
Please
Phoebe
do.
to have her own podcast.
It's okay.
The ladies,
It's
girls
okay.
will be girls.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly. Girls will be girls, man.
Girls will be
Yeah,
girls. Girls will be girls.
No, this is so much fun, man, honestly. And I really, really hope that you guys were able to pick something from this and just take it for yourself. And thank you so much for your support, continual support. Thank you for watching this on YouTube or listening to this on the audio version. And I'm super excited to continue going. There'll definitely be some more guests that I will have on this podcast. I have some really, really good people around me that are good quality people that can offer some really great advice and really great insight on different topics. And so I'm excited. And so thank you once again for your support. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Make sure to comment below if there's anything that you maybe disagree with and that we spoke about, anything you agree with. Let us know. Let us know in the comments. You can also follow my page at BWBB Podcast on Instagram. You can post. I post reels there and stuff like that. You can also hit me in my DM. You can even suggest certain topics for different episodes. This episode was completely unscripted.
Yeah.
You know, they were nervous.
I was nervous. I was like drinking water. I was fidgeting, stuttering. I was like, oh my gosh, the camera's still on. Honestly, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, no, they did great. They did great. And this is, I like to have these types of unscripted episodes because it's more organic. And I feel like you're able to get better responses. And I think that, you know, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us talk about in other episodes, let us know, all right? And yeah, you can also shoot me an email at boyswillbeboyspod@gmail.com and let me know as well if you're more comfortable with email. All right. Peace out.
Bye.